Hi friends, my name is Trisha. Welcome back to my art channel. This last week's been pretty hectic with regards to art, creating and trying out new things. So in today's video, I thought I'll capture some glimpses or highlights of the things that have kept me busy and hopefully share some insights of some new things that I've been trying. What I'll cover in this video are updates from my Neocolor II sketchbooks, an initiative that I started at the beginning of this year. Next, I will share with you my first experience on bookbinding, my very own art journal. I'll also share some highlights of my experience of using the Isomar acrylic inks for the first time. These acrylic inks were part of the first art haul video of 2026, and some of you had requested to share the experience of using them and layering them with different medium. Towards the end of the video, I will also share with you some other highlights of the week that were meaningful and exciting. I hope you're excited. Let's jump right in. So at the start of 2026, I set out with two A4 sketchbooks for my Neocolor II sets that I had. One was a warm palette sketchbook and one was a cool palette sketchbook. And if you've followed my channel in the recent months, I also added to my the cool, warm and primary palettes of 10 new colors each. The dark and the lush set, which are part of their limited edition anniversary sets. And so some of these sketchbooks, especially the warm sketchbook, I've started to experiment with some of the warmer tones from all these little sets of 10 colors, and I'm going to just show you some of the experiments. Brace for some ugly pages in between, but I guess that's the freedom sketchbooks allow you. So I took all the 50 colors from these sets of 10 colors each, and I realized I have 46 unique colors with 4 of them duplicated between these 5 sets. And let's go to the back of this sketchbook. And I wanted to curate a set for rocky landscapes. And this is me fresh coming out of those little compositions of devil's marbles that I had created a video on. I'd done it with watercolors and then also with oil pastels. And I was curious whether I could curate a set of 10 new colors from these unique 46 colors and create the same composition. And this is where I ended up. A lot of it was just intuition, but I also wanted to keep some structure to when choosing these 10 colors for a rocky landscape. So some of the basic principles that I followed while selecting these 10 colors was to choose colors that would do justice to a warm, deep mineral based earth tone. So I chose zinc ochre and English red, and the Chinese green, which is more like a yellow, can be used as highlights on foliage, but also as highlights on the sunlit part of the rocky landscapes. I use the greens, which are light olive 40% and olive brown, as the greens that would go into the background for the darker tone, and in the mid and foreground for the light olive 40%. And I chose two blues here. One is the chrysoprase green, which is a bluish green, for a sense of luminous skies and a beautiful contrast to the warm rocks or rocky landscapes. And the Skagen blue, which is a part of the dark limited edition, a beautiful color for more moody skies, and that also adds a lovely contrast in my view and gives a different feeling to the composition. The next two colors are apricot and vermilion, which help me add controlled warmth to these compositions and in a sense gives a sense of focal energy to these compositions. The last and probably one of the most important colors of the Rocky Landscape palette is caput mortuum. Just a little bit of this caput mortuum adds such deep, dark, rich shadows for this mineral rich rocky landscape, and I think it's a great addition. I also did try out a limited set of 10 colors for florals, and honestly, I need to give this more thought and I need to work out more compositions and check the breadth of possibilities with this limited palette. More on that probably in subsequent videos. But just on the rocky landscape, I continue to just work with them and I really enjoy it because there's something so nice about the contrast of the blue and the beautiful warm colors of the rocks. And the number of compositions can be literally limitless. Probably some of the structures from the seven wonders of ancient or modern world. I'm personally very happy with this exercise and it helped me strengthen some of my color theory and I can't wait to fill up more pages. Friends, I would actually love to know from you if you've curated your own limited set of colors in any medium and if you could share some insights with me. I would really appreciate that. Alright, next is the Cool Palette Sketchbook, again with the Neocolor II Cool palette, which I had started at the beginning of this year. And in this sketchbook, I pretty much stuck to the Cool palette and started to add a few more compositions and just sketches in general. And I want to share one thing here where I added a few more colors and it started to move away from the Cool palette. And while the overall sketches were not too bad, for me it just became a bit of a dissidence that I was breaking order on this sketchbook too, and I decided to just staple these two pages out. I think many artists would say that you should not tear away pages that you're not happy with or hide them away in your sketchbook. But for me, it just makes it very difficult to come back to it. So till it was out of sight in a way, which is me stapling these pages, I was not able to come back to this sketchbook. So that's just me. I don't recommend doing that, but I'm just sharing just something that I did. And I continued to work on this sketchbook. And then I realized when I was playing around with the 24 color set of Kuretake Gansai. This is the Art Nouveau set. It's got these vintage paisley colors. That some of the colors of the Neocolor II Cool palette would be a great match for some of the colors from this set of 24 Gansai Tambi. So here you'll see I've swatched out the 10 colors from the 24 colors of the Kuretake Art Nouveau set. And these are the 10 colors from the Neocolor II Cool palette. And in a way it can help me build the composition either through washes, and it's just nice as an exercise to find similar colors that match a limited edition, and you can add them to your mixed media approach. And again, just an example of a composition like rocky landscapes can also be done with limited edition of different colors. I think one of the common colors is of course vermilion, which helps to add that warmth and the highlight of temperature in these rocky landscapes. Next, friends, I thought I'll share with you my first experience of bookbinding. So I created two of these art journals in a couple of days, and I used some paper from my dry media drawing paper pad from Menora. I was not using this much because most of my sketchbook art has a layer of watercolor or some wet medium. So I had some pages left over from this, and this was the first attempt at it. So I basically created an A6 journal, and it was my first time trying to do Coptic stitch, and I think somewhere I changed over to kettle stitch, and I was not sure what was going on here. The first cover is actually the back hardboard of similar pads which have the watercolor paper or the paper stuck on one side with the glue, and they have a hard cardboard in the end. So I used the hard cardboard from these pads and used them as the front and the back cover. And what I did was I took my original arts prints, cut them up into two A6 size sheets, and then using just regular craft glue, I stuck it on to the hardboard on the front and the back. And this is a 300 GSM 100% cotton journal that I've created now using the original pages from this pad. I'm very happy with how this turned out. And another refinement was the first page, instead of the hardboard showing through, I basically stuck a piece of the watercolor paper so it looks a little neat, and this can be also used as a little swatch area or testing some colors out before you go on to the page. So again, this lays out flat. It's easy to just clip something on here and use this for creating art. I'm so happy to have learned a new skill, and there's so many different ways to bookbind. So hopefully in the next couple of months I'll learn more stitches and learn the different kinds of exposed spine stitches. I love this feel. It does have a rustic look to it. Another good thing about the tutorial from the same channel that I was mentioning, which is Treasure Books, really helpful tips in terms of how much thread to use. For example, look at the length of your art journal that you're intending to stitch and the number of signatures that you want to bind. So it's basically the length times the number of signatures. So really helpful tips like that served me well. And I used just this waxed binding thread, a needle, and this awl was super useful. I didn't have the curved needles, but honestly the tutorial on the channel made it so easy to follow through even with straight needles. So I didn't have trouble while trying to sew even the difficult parts in the middle of the art journal where the straight needle needs to go through and come out through the stitch below. So I think really helpful. Do give that channel a look if you haven't already seen it. Another useful tool was the bone folder. This is a plastic bone folder, and it helps to create these really straight lines when you're folding the A5 pages into A6. Another useful tip was to just measure out the stations or where you intend to stitch bind. So this binding stations or the stitch stations onto a rough paper like this, and then it becomes so easy to use this as a guideline for all the pages to mark out and punch with the awl. Let me know, friends, how you find this little exercise and if it inspires you to try your hand at bookbinding your own art journals. And let me know if you would like to see a detailed video of how I put something like this together. Next up is the acrylic inks. I bought the Isomar acrylic ink set and I'll highlight some of the features and experiences while using it. I haven't used these much, so it's relatively a new medium for me. There are 12 colors in this set, and each color comes in a 35 ml plastic bottle with a cap and a dropper. There is no pigment information on these bottles, and I couldn't find them on the website either. So you just have to rely on the generic names on the bottles like primary yellow, forest green, dark pink, and so on. There is no information on transparency of the individual colors too, and you will just need to use them to figure it out. I'm not sure if these are light fast colors. While swatching, I didn't use much water except to wet and clean the brush. Most of these inks seem really light and transparent, which is nice in a way as they can form layers or washes in mixed media art. I checked the bleed on the opposite side of this Bristol paper. While it didn't bleed through, it probably wasn't the best paper for inks in large quantities. Spraying water on the wet ink on paper makes it scatter and form patterns like watercolors. I used a fan brush to also see effects it could form. Diluting the inks in a bowl or palette before helps to get more fluidity and transparency if needed. These inks, being acrylic, don't reactivate with water once they are dry. Blending colors in a bowl is quite easy with these inks. Here I mix the primary blue and the golden warm yellow to form this green. Of course, the shade depends on how much of each color you're adding and can range from bright green to more deep foresty greens. I also experimented by replacing the water in my spray bottle with rubbing alcohol. I was curious to see the effects. I mixed forest green and maroon to get this really beautiful dark, almost bluish grey. On paper, the inks have similar effect when sprayed with water or alcohol. But in the bowl, the alcohol pushes or separates the pigments away, creating circular blooms that look like cells or galaxies. One of the ways I realized I like to use the inks is with the white mixed in. It adds opacity to the colors when you need them and creates these beautiful pastely tones. The white also helps create these abstract patterns by adding volume to the otherwise runny inks. Next, I did a quick artwork with the inks, forming the initial washes and layers, blocking in shapes for the composition. While this was drying, I tried the inks on watercolor paper, and the inks definitely felt more saturated, opaque, and intense on it. I went back to the first artwork that had dried and layered on different medium on top for details. It was so easy to add on oil pastels on top. It almost made it like a matte surface where the oil pastels could be added on and blended easily or left as is for finer details. It was also very easy to add colored pencils on top. Here I tried the luminance pencils and they layered on very well on top of dried acrylic inks. So did the Neocolor II. Friends, if you have used acrylic inks before, drop me a comment on how you like to use them best. I'm also excited to share glimpses of a finished oil painting project that I did as a commission for one of my friends. This project has been a labor of love from starting out on a large canvas, and now it's framed and ready to be shipped. I'll end this video with a sneak peek of some of my latest Holbein gouache that I've got, and are going to be a replacement of the tubes that are drying out of the existing sets that I have. I will be dedicating a separate video where I swatch out these new colors of gouache by Holbein and also share some of the new art supplies that I've recently bought. A busy few days and a lot of art-related things. I hope you enjoyed this ride-along, friends. Let me know in the comments how you like this format of capturing highlights of the past few weeks in a video. I'll surely make more. I will see you all in my next one. Thanks for watching and happy painting!